Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Wolf She Never Knew. Episode 14. Chapter 100. Avalynn POV. I stood in front of the shower with a towel wrapped around my body. I was caked in mud, thanks to Everest tossing me into a gigantic mud puddle from our run and needed to clean off. I was so happy for Miranda. Her first shift was absolutely perfect. I was so proud and happy for her. Her lichen, Seraphine, was so pretty with unique markings. It was going to take some time, but I couldn't help but to wonder if she was able to hold on to her witch side. If she did, I wondered how much she was able to retain. Only time will tell what she will or will not be capable of. I hope we find out sooner, rather than later. Charlotte spoke out. I agree. I hope she was able to keep some form of magic. I told her as I was drying my hair with a towel. Well, look at you, us rather. You were not able to tap into your magic until I came along. Maybe she will be stronger. Charlotte pondered. I looked at myself in the mirror, a towel now on my head. I looked down at my hands from where my magic poured out. Maybe she doesn't have any and her lichen side is dominating everything. I hope that this is not that case. I let out a soft sigh. Everything okay in there? I heard Everest ask through the door. Yeah, all good. Just finishing cleaning myself up. Got a little sidetrack is all. I pulled my damp hair into a bun on the top of my head and walked out of the bathroom with absolutely nothing on but the towel I had wrapped around my body. Everest sat straight up in the bed and a small smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. His eyes watched all of my movements as I crossed the room. I climbed onto the bed, my legs on either side of his. His hands were on my body, exploring and caressing. We spent the remainder of the night in one another's arms. Miranda POV. I could feel my adrenaline pumping through my body. Shifting was such a rush, even if it was painful. Brent wrapped his arms around me and I smiled up at him. I feel fantastic. Like I could do anything. I told him. Yeah, you feel stronger and faster? Invincible? He asked as he pulled me to him, pushing back a loose strand of hair behind my ear. Yeah. Is that normal? My eyes looked down at his mouth. How I wanted nothing more than to taste him. Do it then. He smiled at me. Wait, did he just read my thoughts? I heard Seraphine giggle. It is the mate bond. She told me. Ah. Can he hear our thoughts? I asked her. Only when you want him to. It'll take us some time to be able to control them. You will see. Once we are fully connected, you'll be able to communicate with multiple people in our kingdom. Seraphine was smiling. I stood up on my toes and kissed him gently on the mouth. His lips pressed back into mine and began to move against one another. His arms tightened around my waist. I hummed out when he broke our kiss. My eyes opened to him gazing down at me. You are so beautiful, Miranda. I felt blood rush to my cheeks as I blushed. His touch made me feel like a million fireworks were exploding all over my skin. It almost gave me a tingly feeling all over. I have never experienced anything so sensational in my entire life. Mate bond. Seraphine said. Was she smiling? Pretty sure she was. How weird it is to be able to see her but not really all at the same time. I could see her in my mind as she spoke. It was like she was right there next to me, but she wasn't. She was in my mind. This was going to take some time to get used to. Talking to yourself, or are you speaking with Seraphine? Perhaps both. He gave me a knowing smile. Yes, no. You can tell. I smiled back up to him. Yes. I can tell, you get distant like you're lost in thought. Oh, and your eyes have a hazy glaze when you are trying to reach your leakin. Brent's grin widened. He stepped away from me to look me up and down. Why don't you go check our closet? There is something in there for you. For me? I asked, and he nodded his head. I stepped away from him and out of his arms. I turned, walking into our closet and over to where my vanity was sitting. Sitting on top of it was a cute, medium-sized white and silver gift bag. I picked it up, removing the tissue paper inside to reveal 3 jewelry boxes. I turned around and Brent was already behind me, watching me open the gift. There was a beautiful necklace, earrings, and a beautiful ring. Each piece of jewelry matched one another. These are absolutely beautiful. I looked up to him. I hope that it is not too much. He spoke softly. No, they're perfect. I set the bag down. Now go in there and I will be right out. I motioned for him to leave. His brow rose, but he did as I told him to. When the door was shut, I stepped into the restroom with the adjoining door. I looked out and quietly closed the bathroom door that led to our bedroom. I freshened myself up and walked back into the closet. I went through my lingerie drawer until I found what I had purchased for this occasion. I put it on. It was a 2-piece laced and sheer body gown that clung to my upper body and hugged every curve that I had. From the low bust that exposed the top of my chest to my waistline was a beautiful white lace. Where the gown hit my hips, the gown began to become more flowy. I put on a long strand of pearls that came together in a single strand at my chest and stopped around my navel. I put on my sheer robe that had matching lace trim and put on the white high heels. I took a step back and looked at myself in the mirror. I was impressed at how much better I looked after my transition into a leakin. My body filled out. My chest was bigger and my hips gave my once slim body more curve. I flipped my hair, fixing it to look more desirable and to give it more volume. I stepped out of the closet as our eyes connected. I felt warmth flow through my body and I swear I could feel his own desire. I could hear his heart beat faster as his tongue licked his lips. He looked at me like I was prey that needed to be devoured. I was more than willing to let him devour all of me. He breathed. You like it? I smiled at him. I love it. You look amazing. He moved to the edge of our bed, his eyes roaming all over my body. I walked towards him, adding a sway to my hips. I could practically see him drooling over me. I felt powerful, like I had him right where I wanted him. I stopped in front of him and when he reached out for me I shook my head and pushed his hands away from my body. No, I told him, and he frowned and reached for me again. No, I said more firmly. I, for whatever reason, wanted to start off in control. He let out a growl. I lifted the gown up, moving to straddle one of his legs as I stood over the top of him. My hands went to rest on either side of his face. The sparks from our touch fueled my own desires. I dipped my head down to him as our mouths were close to touching. Our noses grazed one another, our breathing quickened. His hands slipped around me, gripping and pulling me even closer. Mine. He growled out. I bit his bottom lip as I felt how hard he was against the thin material of my thong. His hands slid down to rest on either side of my hips, moving them against his bulge. I whispered to him, "I am yours." He lost it. He stepped away from me to look me up and down. "Why don't you go check our closet? There is something in there for you." His eyes darkened and he flipped us in one swift motion. He was now on top of me. "Make me yours," I whispered into his ear, biting his earlobe softly. I didn't need to say any more. "That's right, baby." He smiled wildly down at me. I felt my release. I felt him empty. He held me close to him as our breathing began to go back to normal. I don't know why, but something inside told me to do it. I moved up his body and bit him, marking him as mine. His scent completely filled me. It was the most wonderful scent I have ever smelled. Mine. I growled into his neck, cleaning the wound. We laid in one another's arms and soon fell asleep together as one. We will need sleep as tomorrow will be the crowning ceremony. Tomorrow I will become Queen of the Southern Territories. Together, with the help of King Everest and Queen Avalynn, we will move these countries in the right direction. Bond together against the common enemy. My dreams were plagued with the darker side of what ifs and what could happen if I lost all of my magic. I tossed and turned through the nightmares. It wasn't long until I heard Brent screaming my name to wake up. "Miranda, wake up! Babe! Miranda!" he screamed. "Miranda, open your eyes!" He was pleading with me. "Are we going to wake up?" Seraphin was speaking to me. "I didn't sleep," I complained. "I know. You should wake up though," he sounds worried. Seraphin smiled at me strangely. "He does? He sounds so far away though." I shrugged it off. "I think we are dreaming again." "That's because he is far away. Wake up, you will see why. This is not a dream." She smiled and disappeared. My eyes snapped open, blinking quickly to regain my vision. 101. Miranda POV. I felt different. More different than before. I sat there by myself, but could still hear Brent in the room that was next to ours, but connected by a swinging door. It looked more like a separate living space where we could hang out and be ourselves with couches and chairs, a huge television with different gaming consoles. I tried not to listen in on his conversation, but I couldn't help it. My hearing was just that good, even if he was trying to keep it hushed. I heard everything and even part of her end of the conversation. "You didn't see it." Her body was floating and covered in flames. It was like she was locked in a trance of some sort, fighting herself to wake up. Brent continued, "When can you be here? Please tell me soon." The female voice on the other end spoke in a serious tone, "Calm down, you are panicking and that isn't going to do anything but scare her. Chill, I will be up in a few minutes." "Have you spoken with Queen Avalynn yet?" I smiled a nervous smile as I looked at my hands, rubbing them together. The way he looked at me did scare me a bit. I didn't even realize I was completely engulfed in full flames until he rushed to get the big mirror that was in the closet so I could see myself. I knew I was floating and felt like I didn't want to wake up. Apparently, it was difficult to do so. He was pacing the room for minutes and was asking me how I had managed to do such a thing. I didn't know anything, so he picked up his phone and walked into the other room. At least Avalynn will be there with me, to help me with this process. He could have had a conversation with me, I was the one on fire after all. I let out an annoyed sigh. The door swung open and Brent walked into the room. I had heard him coming but still jumped at the door swinging opening. "Sorry, love." Brent smiled at me. He took a few steps towards me and stopped at arm's length. "So you don't know how you did that?" I shook my head and looked at the floor. Tears began to sting my eyes and one escaped rolling slowly down my cheek. "No, I don't know how." "Are you afraid of me?" I looked back up at him, uncertainty in my eyes. When my eyes locked with his, I saw the flash of emotions cross his face, scared and seriousness moved to sadness. He was feeling my pain. He stepped forward as his hands rested on either side of my cheeks, his thumb brushing the single tear away from my face. "I am not afraid of you." Did it startle me and cause me to panic? Yes, maybe slightly. I raised a brow at him. Okay, maybe a lot. But, to be perfectly honest, it is not every day you wake up to your mate floating above your head engulfed in flames. He chuckled and I smiled. Yeah, I would have probably freaked out completely too. Probably more than what you did. What was weird though, is how I didn't even realize it until you brought that mirror out. I shrugged my shoulders. He moved to sit next to me on the bed. He pulled my body close to him. I leaned into him, letting him hold me tight. My head moved to lay against his shoulder. I felt his lips press into the top of my head, causing me to smile. I closed my eyes and thought about how I made that happen. Maybe my Leakin would know? I felt myself zoning out, leaving everyone behind. I could hear everyone around me, but I got lost in talking with Seraphine. I felt people touch my arm, trying to get me to, but I was too lost in our conversation. "I do." She smiled at me. "How?" I asked Seraphine. "It's just when your transition was fully completed, that was the final phase. We will be extremely powerful and dangerous to cross." Seraphine's voice was flat and serious as she spoke to me. "If we give in to our darkness, we will be lost. You must remember the truth that lies within your heart when you use your magic. If you give in to your emotions, you could lose yourself and leave a path of destruction in your wake." "Really? I could be that destructive?" I frowned. "Miranda? Hello? We need to talk about what you're going through." The voice was muffled, but I could tell it was Brent's. "They want to talk to you. You should get back out there." Seraphine moved further away in my mind. "Wait, stay. I am not ready," I told her. "Okay. Yes, you can be that destructive. You can destroy an entire village, clan, Miranda, even a small human city, if you aren't careful." She sighed. "But how do I not give in to my emotions or urges when fighting? That seems like that would be rather difficult." I wondered how bad it could really be. It could be dangerous for both sides. You could wipe out your own people. You must learn to control yourself, keep an even mind, and focus all of that energy for the good of your people. Never give in to your emotions unless you want everyone around you dead. You must go, they're getting worried. Take it slow and practice constantly. Be consistent. If you find something that works, keeps you calm and grounded, go with it. You got this. I believe in you, in us. She smiled and retreated back. My eyes rapidly blinked as I focused back in on what was going on around me. I looked and Brent was now standing in front of me. I was no longer sitting on the bed but in one of our chairs. Avalynn and Melissa were sitting on the couch opposite of me, chatting. My eyes moved and saw that Brent and Everest were standing on the other side of the room discussing plans. Hello, everyone. I watched as all four heads snapped at my voice. Sorry about that, I was talking with my Leakin about what happened this morning. I gave a small smile. What did she tell you? Melissa asked curiously. I knew that she probably had an estimated guess, that was probably correct, but I let them all know. I told them exactly what Seraphin told me. I watched their facial expressions and waited for their reply. Brent was first. How do you control it? I shrugged my shoulders. I don't really know yet. I am unsure if I can call on it the way I could call on my magic before. I don't want to do it inside. I want to do it outside in a huge open field. My eyes cut over to Avalynn. I wonder if you would be able to picture it as a color? It's obviously fire, so maybe you can see it as an orange tether. She was thinking out loud. Maybe, I said. Yes. Seraphin piped up in my mind. Yes. I changed my answer quickly and Melissa smiled. So you use pyronesis? Melissa asked and I nodded my head. Fascinating, beautiful, and dangerous. We must get to work right away. Melissa stood ready to get started. Now? I asked, slightly confused. Yes, right now. You need a lesson in calling and control before the crowning ceremony and ball tonight. You don't want to accidentally call on your magic and blow up the castle with everyone inside, do you? Melissa let out a soft laugh. I breathed with a long sigh. She was right. I had forgotten all about the crowning ceremony and ball this afternoon. I am absolutely horrible. It's fine, it's fine. I reassured myself and everyone else in the room, mainly Brent. Look, don't stress it. I know that it is super formal but we will have you back by 3 at the latest. That should be enough time, yes. Melissa's head moved to the side. That should be plenty of time. Avalynn answered for me. I was glad because I honestly had no clue. I got ready for mine, hair, and makeup in like 2 hours. The crowning ceremony is at 6. That is more than enough time with an hour to spare. She gave me a reassuring smile. Okay. All right, all right, all right. I stood up. Let's get to moving. Time is precious and we are wasting it. We all walked out of mine and Brent's room. We made our way outside with a few trusted warriors to stand guard and keep an eye out. We had to be extra careful because the field we were making our way to was a few miles outside the safety of the castle walls. We shifted and, surprisingly, it didn't take me too long to shift. I watched Melissa climbing onto the back of one of the warriors and we walked outside the gate. We waited for the gate to fully close and took off down the road. We found a path to the right side of the road and cut down it, getting off the road and out of plain sight. I watched behind Seraphine's eyes as she ran quickly and was truly surprised at how quiet all of our movements were. Our agility at such a fast speed was amazing to bear witness to. I am sure we were barely able to be seen by the human eye. Humans, if in the woods, would probably never truly see us. The wind that blew their way would just seem like a big gust more than likely. We reached the field in no time. Time seemed to slowly tick by. I was frustrated but I tried my best to not be. Melissa and Avalynn banded together and used their magic to put me in a force field bubble when my emotions ran rampant. It was hard controlling them now that I had Lycan's blood. I realized I was much more hot-headed than before. I sat on the grass in the middle of the field and laid back. I mentally felt drained. We had been out here for 2 hours and I couldn't call upon my magic. So being frustrated was only the tip of the iceberg. It's going to be okay. Avalynn's voice was soft and reassuring. I just don't understand. I just can't connect. I complained. Have you tried to picture a use for it? Melissa asked me. What do you mean? I looked over at her. Like you're in danger? A loved one is in danger. Melissa said flatly. Oh, no. Maybe I should try that. I pushed myself up into a sitting position. Come on, let's try it. Melissa outstretched her arm, offering me a hand. I took it and stood up. I closed my eyes and tried to visualize the worst possible thing that could ever happen. I saw our home being attacked by siblings. They were tearing everything apart along with a band of minions. They had captured Cassie and Brent. They had Brent under a spell, chained in his Lycan form, with a silver muzzle around his head. Cassie laid there, with a wound. She was dying as they tortured her. Blood was spewing from her wounds. I heard someone whisper. Put it up, put it up. I heard another panic-sounding voice. I saw the tether now. It was a neon orange. It came to me happily. It danced with twists and turns with loops as it floated towards me. It wrapped itself all around my body. Like someone pinched me, I felt I was now one with the tether as it buried inside of me. I could see it, within me. Just like another vein in my body. It was magnificent. I felt the power it held. The danger that was inside of me now. I could take out a coven who had done me wrong in the past. So many people I could hurt. My vengeance on the siblings would be easy. I could do it for Avalynn. I could do it for myself. Our family was torn apart because of them. We could get even. I felt the flames ignite, but they weren't hot. Not to me anyway. It felt like when you walked in front of a high-powered fan in the heat of summer. Nice and cool feeling. My skin tingled at the sensation it gave me. It was an inebriating feeling. Miranda, you have got to control what you are feeling. Do not lose yourself to this power, this feeling. I know it is intoxicating. Avalynn called out to me. My eyes opened and I saw nothing around me but flames. I had done it, maybe overdone it, but I was now connected with my power. I took a deep breath to clear my mind and the flames pulled back. I could see the tether and I reeled it back in. I moved so it was only with my hands and I smiled as I moved a fireball from one hand to another. Good work, now release the magic. Melissa instructed me and I did as she asked of me. I released the magic and it was gone. I looked over at her and smiled. Should I try to bring it back? Melissa just nodded her head. I pulled the neon orange tether into my hands and created a small flame in one hand. I used my other hand to stretch the fire to look like a thin rope. Well done. Now think of that feeling that made you angry and want to rage. Control yourself. Fire flew through my fingertips as I recalled Cassie's small figure. I swallowed as I worked to handle the rage inside of what I made up in my mind. I did it though. I managed to control it. Even when the tether pulled to get away from me, I brought it back to me. I could see how easy it would be to get away from me. I would need to be extra careful, especially with all of these new urges. I think that we can call it a day. Let's call it a day. By the time we get back it will be close to 3. Brent walked over to me and hugged me. I smiled up at him and hugged him back. He placed a kiss on my mouth and I returned the kiss. We shifted and made our way back to the safety of the castle. Our warriors ran in front and behind us. We ran through the gate and shifted back into our human forms. It was just before 3 when we walked back into our room. I am proud of how well you handled your magic this afternoon. You did a fantastic job, babe. Very impressive, Brent smiled at me. Thanks. I thought there for a moment that I was going to fail and not be able to make a full connection to my magic. But I did it and was able to get it back to me and under control. I walked into the bathroom and hopped into the shower. In just a few hours, I will be Queen of the Southern Territories. I hoped that I could be as good of a queen as Avalynn has turned out to be. She doesn't know it, but I look up to her in so many ways. Seriously, she has been through hell and she seems to always keep a level mind about everything. I only hope that I can keep my emotions in check like she has. If I can, then this whole fire thing should be a bit easier to contain. 102. Miranda POV. The next few hours of getting ready for the ceremony and the ball that would follow was nothing but a big blur. The only thing that went slow was the hot shower I took. It was like I could feel every drop of water against my skin. It was weird because, regardless of how hot or cold the water was, it felt the same. When I mentioned it to Brent and he checked it, he said it was scalding hot or ice cold. It was weird. It had to happen because of my magic. I found myself distracted by thoughts of the temperature of the water while my hair was being fixed. Time seemed to fly by and when my chair turned around I looked up at the group of stylists, slightly confused as to why I was facing the other half of the room. Was I done? I don't remember anything being applied to my face, then again I was lost in my thoughts. It was like they could see the confusion and read my mind. It is easier for the makeup artists to do your makeup. They don't have to squeeze between you and the mirror. Allison, the woman who fixed my hair, told me. Oh. I smiled with a slight nod to my head. So I haven't had any makeup applied yet. Well, That's good then, I thought to myself. Did you not like your hair? Allison frowned. Honestly, I wasn't looking. How do you think that it looks? I watched as her face lit up. Honestly, I believe it is my best work yet. Allison smiled at me. Well, then I am sure when everything is all finished, and this chair turns around, I will be ecstatic about everyone's work they have done on me. I smiled back at her. She seemed satisfied with my answer and excused herself. I heard her behind me and cleaning her station up. I was leaned back in the chair and told to close my eyes and relax. I did that and felt different products being applied to my face. When I sat up and turned around to look at myself, I was stunned. I looked beautiful. I had a soft smoky look that made my silver eyes pop but wasn't too dark to look like I was going out on the town. My lips had a beautiful shade of pink, not too bright but a few shades darker than my natural lip color. Great work, I am impressed. I looked at the two of them. Thank you so much. I hope that in our future endeavors, you will be the ones who will be working on my makeup team. Allison, I will be asking you for all of my hair looks and needs as well. I watched as all three of them smiled excitedly. Now I must go get ready. It is almost time. They left my room and I heard a soft knock on the door. Come in. I called as I stood up. I heard the door open and shut and the swishing sound of a dress as Avalynn entered the room. Hey, how's it coming? Oh my goddess, your hair and makeup are perfection. Avalynn smiled. Thanks. Would you mind helping me into my dress? I asked her. No, I don't mind at all. Is it hanging up in your closet? She motioned across the room and I nodded. I watched her leave the room and I began to strip down. I placed all the correct undergarments on as I waited for Avalynn to return. I looked at myself in the mirror and I smiled. I looked hot. If Brent popped his head in right now, I feared we would miss the crowning ceremony. Avalynn walked in with my gown and helped me into it. She then helped with my shoes and my jewelry. Okay, you look fantastic and delicious. Just breathtakingly beautiful, truly. Brent is on his way up and, I believe, he is right down the hall. I will see you down there. You look perfect. Deep breath and don't be too nervous. You are going to make a fantastic queen. Avalynn gave me a quick hug and she was out the door. She looked beautiful too. That dress was simply made for her. I was walking to the door when it swung open. Brent walked in and he looked amazing. His suit was cut and fit his body flawlessly. It hugged his muscular curves of his shoulders and arms perfectly. I bit my bottom lip as my eyes trailed over his body. Careful there, I might take that bottom lip into my own mouth. He was standing in front of me now, his finger under my chin, tilting my head up to look at him. I might like that. I said softly and breathless. I felt my heart skip when his eyes darkened. I could tell a storm of desire was brewing deep within him. I moved so our bodies were now touching. His fingers traced my cheek and jawline. His thumb softly traced along my bottom lip. I pressed my lips against it, kissing him. He paused his thumb and I took it into my mouth, softly sucking it. He made a groaning sound and pulled his hand away from my mouth and stepped back. Miranda! was all he said, and I grinned. He seemed like he was out of breath, and I knew that was impossible. Maybe the sight of me took his breath away? I felt my cheeks start to blush as he looked at me. His eyes were traveling up and down my body several times. I stood up on my toes and got close to his ear and whispered, "I am yours forever. Tonight you are mine." My lips lightly pressed against his ear and I moved away from him. As I began to walk away from him, he took hold of my hand and pulled me back to him. My body slammed into his as his mouth was on mine suddenly with a bruising kiss of passion. He released me and I felt like I had drunk so much alcohol, my legs felt weak and shaky as well as my heart was racing. I could have sworn it was beating crazily, over-dramatized like the cartoons display. He smiled at me and placed his hand over my beating heart. His other hand took mine into his own and placed it on his chest. I couldn't hear it over the beating of my own, but his was beating at the same erotic pace as mine. "Wow, you too!" I breathed. "Come, we had best get going. Before it's too late," he whispered in a playful tone. His hand never left mine as he led me into the hall. I walked down the hall to the elevator with him. We stepped into the elevator together. I concentrated on the humming sound of the elevator and the dinging sounds as we passed through the levels of the castle. Strangely enough, it calmed me down. By calming down, I mean that I was in a better position to see and control myself around him. I smiled to myself as I looked at my reflection in the sliding doors. I felt wonderful, almost like I was walking on a cloud. My heels clicked on the marble floor as we walked across the lobby, making our way into the side entrance to wait. I could hear the voices on the other side of the door. Brent opened the door for me, allowing me to walk ahead of him. We made our way inside and waited as King Everest called attention to the room. I could hear his deep voice boom across the room. Everything went silent as we moved from our position to now stand behind the doors at the main entrance to the room. The royal guards opened the door as our names were being called. My hand rested on the top of his arm was up, bent at the elbow in an elegant fashion. As we walked together, everyone who was standing was bowing their heads and kneeling down on one knee to us. They only stood once we had walked past them. The only people who did not kneel were Avalynn and Everest, but they bowed their heads out of respect. The words that were spoken washed over me and I seemed to drown in them. I felt like the words flooded the room. I tried to concentrate on my breathing as I tried to listen to what was being said. Then it was time for me to speak. I took a deep breath to settle my nerves, and when my lips parted, nothing came out. I wet my lips, cleared my throat, and opened my lips once more to speak. "I solemnly swear that I will do my best as your queen to protect the innocent and fight for what is right. To never place my people in harm's way or in any kind of danger to further the kingdom. To lead by example and grace. To be understanding during disputes and to support our people in their times of need. To rule beside King Brent and come together on our decisions for the better of our lands. I swear to be the best queen I know how to be, and that I swear to devote my life to you, King Brent, and to our peoples. No matter if this life is long or short, I am fully committed from this day forward to our kingdom and our family. Until my last dying breath." I kneeled and a crown was placed on the top of my head. The alpha from our largest pack spoke then, announcing, "Your Majesty, Queen Miranda. May your reign be long and strong." Cheers erupted throughout the hall. Whistling was heard and trumpets blared. Our flags were released behind us as Brent took my hand in his. We turned to face our people, together for the first time as king and queen. My eyes made their way through the crowd of people that stood before us. When it landed on Avalynn, she was wearing a huge smile and mouthed, "You did great," to me. I simply nodded my head in her direction. Brent took a step forward and spoke to the crowd. When his hand was raised in the air, the room silenced quickly. "Ladies and gentle people, please join the Queen and myself for dinner in the next room and dancing as we celebrate a new start to our kingdom." We walked out of the room first, King Everest and Queen Avalynn directly behind us. They will be sitting up at our table as honored guests this evening. We ate our dinner and enjoyed the festivities that were arranged as entertainment while we ate. When the time came to dance, Brent and I took to the floor first. This reminded me of a human wedding almost. I smiled up to Brent as he pulled my body close to his. We danced the first few minutes together before Everest and Avalynn joined in. Soon the floor was full of people. We danced for a little before heading back to our table to watch the others. When we sat down, I could feel the mood shift, almost instantly. I looked over at Brent, who mumbled under his breath. Everest and Avalynn were beside us and I felt that irritating pull, as if someone was trying to reach my link. I, of course, opened the link and allowed them in. It was Avalynn. "Hello. So, we just got news from one of our guards that the siblings were spotted about 10 miles east of the kingdom walls with an entire army of witches. All of our warriors who are on patrol are pulling back at this time. Brent was going to tell you, but he is reaching out to give these orders. Leave your link open to us and your top warriors." I nodded my head to her and I felt Seraphine push forward. She was watching behind my eyes. "I am nervous," I admitted to Seraphine. Apparently, Brent heard me or felt my nerves and turned to me. "Try not to be nervous on the outside. We will end it early and call a meeting immediately after." Brent's thought traveled through my mind. "I am trying not to." I glanced over to look at Avalynn to copy her face. I studied her for a moment. She appeared blank but somewhat interested in what was going on the dance floor. She seemed relaxed and laid back. So I did exactly what she did, but in my own way. I sat forward in my seat and took a sip of my glass of tea as I smiled and seemed to enjoy myself. Seraphine seemed to pace in my mind. I am glad she could do that. I needed to put on a brave face. I was nowhere near ready or even felt as if I could trust my magic. It was too wild, too strong. Maybe they knew that. Maybe the siblings were planning on this. I frowned as I thought about it until Avalynn's throat cleared. I glanced over at her as she smiled at me. I realized I was frowning and quickly smiled. This was going to be difficult to master. "Come," Brent told me and we stood, his hand sliding into mine. The music stopped playing as we left the room together, him leading me out. Everest and Avalynn followed right behind us. We walked into Brent's office where our head warriors were already waiting for us. They have attacked a wolf pack. A small one, with a few survivors, maybe 10 out of 100. Our warriors stumbled across it heading back in. The tall, built, long-haired warrior said to us all. "What do we do?" I asked them and they all turned to look at me. "We get ready to fight," Brent told me. Let's get our people ready, I responded. You need more practice. You're doing fantastic, but you need more, I feel. Avalynn suggested to me. Let's get to work, then. I looked over at her and she nodded her head. Meet me here in about 20 minutes or so. Sounds good. Will you arrange a few warriors to accompany us? Avalynn had turned to Everest and he nodded his head. 103. Miranda POV. The siblings and their armies are currently under a cloaking spell. We lost them. They were just gone, without a trace or even a hint of where they could be hiding. They could have moved out or have surrounded our walls. No one knows. The witches have been working hard to try to lift it, but it doesn't do anyone any good if we don't know their location. Avalynn proposed that they may have gotten spooked by everyone here. Most of the pack leaders and more lichens and witches than I would dare to go up against from both sides of our territories. We're all gathered here. My mind was going what felt like a million miles an hour. My thoughts moved quickly from one to the other. I sighed as I felt my magic coursing through me, wanting an escape, a release. I was so annoyed by the off and on appearance of the siblings. I was ready to end this and put it behind us and move on with our futures. I sat at my desk, moving my chair back and forth as I studied the map in front of me. I was still getting used to where everything was located in the kingdom. I was afraid that it might take too long to figure it out. I got it. If anything happens, give me control and I will get us through it. I will make sure we go in the right direction. The map is burned into our memory. Seraphine spoke with a smile. It was weird how I could tell she was smiling. Thank you. I told her. I was so very grateful for her, even if it was weird having her in my mind. I was getting used to it though. I looked back down at the map at where all of our hidden bunkers were located and the secret ways to get there through hidden passages in between the walls, more closely. I could feel Seraphine looking with me, studying the entire thing. I felt a knot in my stomach as my mind flashed and everything went dark. Suddenly, a vision was brought forth and it was like I was watching the future unfold before me. I reached out to touch the tree I was standing next to. It was dripping with what I could only imagine was blood, but I couldn't feel it. Not only that, but my hand stayed dry. I looked out into the distance and frowned at what I couldn't see. It was as if everything was completely blurry. One thing for sure was there would be a lot of deaths, as I was surrounded by corpses and the green grass was tainted crimson. We knew that there would be a lot of deaths that would be coming our way, we just did not know when. I took a cautious step out onto the field. With every step I made I looked around for any danger. Then I heard the muffled sounds of a deep voice. I couldn't make out entirely what he was saying, but I could tell it was pain, worry, a hint of anger, and sorrow. Even blurry, I could tell it was Brent as he rushed past me. When I turned to look where he was running to, the vision disappeared and I was looking at a worried Avalynn. "Are you okay?" she asked me. I blinked, trying to regain my focus. When my eyes focused on Avalynn, I raised my eyebrows at her. "You can see me?" I asked her and reached out and grabbed her hand. I could feel her. She looked at me weird and nodded yes. She said hesitantly. "Okay." I inhaled deeply. I just had a vision. I couldn't make it out though. It was all blurry. I quickly told her. Oh. Well then, that isn't too handy if it's blurry. She gave a light laugh. I guess not. I paused and turned my attention back to the map. Have you studied the maps yet? I have. Avalynn moved to the opposite side of the table to look at it with me. Do you remember any of it? I looked over at her as she shrugged her shoulders. Some, I think so. But then again, not really. Avalynn smiled. It will take time. I still do not know all the different ways around my home yet. Don't stress it and just use your instinct. She looked back down at the map and made a face. What is it? I looked back to where she was pointing. Did you see this right here? She glanced over to me and I just shook my head at her. It says QS passageway. I wonder if that means queen. I looked over at her. I would like to think so. I watched her finger trace the passageway. It was barely visible and hard to follow. The passageway was lost between others and she found the end. The end seemed to lead to an open field 3 miles outside the castle walls. Now, if that is the truth, we shall see later. The question now was, where did it begin? We looked at the map for a good 30 minutes before we figured it out. Oh! Here we go! Look right here! I placed my finger on a part of the map that was slightly smudged. It looked like something that came through some kind of hidden doorway. From the floor maybe? We need to find this. This hallway leads from your office. Avalynn looked around the room. Oh, we are already in here. She laughed and I joined her. Okay, it has got to be somewhere in here. We both began to walk around the room. We pulled away different books, moved paintings out of the way, pushed around furniture. After an hour of looking around the room, we stood there staring at one another thinking. Where in the world could it be? Avalynn asked. I looked at the bookcase and back at Avalynn, then I looked at the floor and began to stomp around on the rug. I listened to any inconsistencies in the floor. When the floor made a slight creaking sound, my eyes snapped at Avalynn who was already bending down and lifting a corner up. I helped move the rug back and out of the way. Oddly enough, the floor was the same. What man? Avalynn got down on her hands and knees and began pulling at the wooden floor. She looked like a mental person crawling all over the floor. I know it is here. It has to be here somewhere. When her claws extended into the cracks of the floor and pulled with her last effort, a seamless door was pulled up. I looked down at her as her head snapped up in my direction with a look of excitement as she grinned from ear to ear. You did it! Want to check it out? I looked down at Avalynn and she nodded her head. Yeah, I'll go first, Avalynn said and soon hopped down the open door. I heard a thud as her feet hit the stone floor. Come on down. You're good, she called up. I took one look around the room and noted that we would need to figure out a way for this to not be so obvious that an escape had been made. I lowered myself down and pulled the handle and the door closed. I yanked one good time and a click was heard. I think that is a good thing. I looked over at Avalynn. I think so too. She smiled and I could see Charlotte was looking through Ava's eyes. I could feel Seraphine looking through my eyes. The tunnels were dark and damp and had a chill. I was happy to be a Leakin with this terrible chill hanging in the air. Thankfully, we could see as if there were lights going down the hall. After an hour of exploring, we still hadn't reached the end. Avalynn turned around to look behind us and back down the dim hall. So what do you want to do? Keep going? I asked her. Avalynn's shoulders moved up and down as she shrugged. I would like to continue on, but I feel like we are wasting time. Seraphine's thoughts drifted through my mind. You could give us control and shift. Oh, we can shift. Seraphine just mentioned it. We could run full speed and figure everything out as we go. I looked over at her. She nodded, good idea. Charlotte just said the same thing. She smiled at me and in a flash shifted into her Lycan form. I followed suit and gave Seraphine control. My shift was not as fast as Avalynn, but it was getting better. When I shifted, I noticed how much bigger I was than Charlotte. Her Lycan was known to be strong and powerful, yet I was larger, but not by much. We took off at incredible speed, rushing down the hallway. We ran around every twist and turn quickly. It wasn't much longer that we came across a door. It was an arched doorway that was built with mud and stone. It looked very old and not very sturdy or reliable. I was afraid that if we opened it, it would crumble to the ground. Was it worth the risk if we didn't know what was on the other side? Open it. If all else fails, we can try to rebuild it. Seraphine told me. With that, I shifted back to my human form. I looked over to Charlotte as she stepped away from the door. I slowly pushed the door open. The door only opened about 2 feet or so. I frowned and pushed my body against it and I was slapped in the face by a branch. Ow! I cursed and heard Charlotte blow a hard breath through her nose. I could only imagine she was laughing at my misfortune. I rubbed my forehead for a moment before moving further. When I opened the door opened into a thick brush of trees, bushes, brush, mixed with other plants and flowers. I pushed some aside and it opened up to the forest. I stepped out and looked at the door itself. It was covered in moss and had other plants growing off of it. It was very well blended with its surroundings. Avalynn had shifted back and stepped out behind me. She took a look around and we went back into the hidden tunnel before we were spotted by someone. We shifted and ran back from where we came from. When we opened the floor door to my office, both Everest and Brent were standing there with their arms crossed. They were both wearing scowls on their faces. "Where have you two been?" Everest said angrily. Even though he sounded angry, he looked more worried. His face softened when Avalynn climbed up the ladder and his arms were around her. "Your sense didn't even leave this room. Why were you both ignoring our links?" Brent's scowl moved to more of a disappointed look and then to relief in just a few seconds. His arms wrapped around me in a tight hug. I wrapped my arms around him and inhaled his wonderful scent. He did the same. I could feel him physically beginning to relax in my arms. I let out a happy sigh. His arms were my safe place. "Wait, you both tried to link us?" I didn't know. My words trailed off. Avalynn sighed. "I didn't get your link either, Everest." I looked over at Avalynn. "What if it blocks everything?" "Interesting, maybe so. Could be some sort of spell." She nodded with a small shrug. Brent cleared his throat. "Anyway, we have a lead on the siblings." "You do?" I looked up at him. Yes, they're about 10 miles from here, on the other side of the river. One of them made the mistake of coming outside their boundary line and was spotted. When followed, they disappeared into thin air. It wasn't one of the siblings, but it was one of their followers. We have a team of witches working on taking down their cloaking spell, and then we will find out more. Brent frowned. What is it? I asked him. Everest spoke this time. That means that if their cloaking spell comes down, then it could be an automatic war. So we need to be ready. You both need to train together and with us. Brent looked between us. Yes, you both need to be ready. We all need to be on the same page. We will have a private training session tonight, after dinner. Everest put his hands into his pockets. We will hold a giant training session tomorrow to make sure we are all ready. Lycans, wolves, and the witches will all come together as one. One massive army. Brent told us. I like the idea. How long will the training sessions be tomorrow? I moved to sit down on the couch. A few hours or so, Brent said. Anyway, dinner is ready. You two were gone a while. I am sure you are both hungry. As if right on cue, my stomach growled. We left the room and went to eat dinner. During dinner we discussed further plans for what our training would entail. 104. Brent sent an order to pause the lifting of the siblings' cloaking spell. He ordered a mixture of our warriors, wolves, and witches to help guard the perimeter the witches had set to keep themselves hidden from us. This was done so we could all focus on being one strong unit. Things have been going well, and I can honestly and confidently say that, as a whole, we were ready for anything they threw our way. Standing together as a united front would give us the upper hand, or so we had high hopes for anyway. We would have the power between myself and Avalynn, the witches, and the strong force from the Lycans and wolves. It will be an interesting fight when we face off, and I highly doubted that they would play fair. I had been awake for about an hour now, just thinking about all the different outcomes. It didn't sit well with me. All of the death. I knew that there was no avoiding it, but I wished that we could, for everyone's sake. Babe. I heard Brent's deep, soothing voice. I rolled over in bed to face him. Are you okay? You seem, well, a bit distracted or distant. I guess I could understand that one. I have been through many wars and battles in my life. He spoke with me as he wrapped his arm around my waist, tugging, and pulling me to him. I nuzzled into the comfort he brought with that embrace. I was just thinking about what could happen. Well, what could happen? There is nothing to worry about. We will all be okay, well, for the most part. There will be death, I know this, but that is the price of war. That is the cost we pay to live the way we want, the way we know. The price of keeping peace between all of our kinds. He pressed his lips against my forehead. Please, try not to worry. I took a deep breath and inhaled his scent and let out a long sigh. I hope so. We need to get ready to meet them soon. Brent told me. I nodded my head and moved out of bed to get myself ready to go. This has been the longest week of my entire life. I was mentally drained and exhausted. It was funny though, because at the same time I felt like I could take on the world. I felt my strength inside grow more over time. I walked into my closet and could feel Brent's eyes on me. I slipped on a tank top and my bike shorts and walked back out. Brent was ready to go wearing a t-shirt and basketball shorts. I swear that he could wear a potato sack and look just as dashing as he would in a suit. I pulled my hair up to rest at the top of my head in a messy bun and he smirked at me. I frowned. What are you smirking at? He covered the length of our room in just a few steps and was now standing close to me. I am just admiring how beautiful you are. My lips parted and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. I almost couldn't stand being this close to him. I could feel his body heat radiating off of him. My eyes moved to look at his lips. I moved to stand on my toes as he leaned towards me, meeting me halfway. His lips met mine. His lips moved tenderly against my own. A soft moan managed to work its way out. His arms wrapped around my body in a tight embrace as my arms encircled his neck. I held him just as tightly as he held me. I pulled back, reluctantly breaking our long kiss. We need to get going. We are already running behind. He groaned but nodded his head in agreement. Yes, very well then. Come, love. His hand reached for my own, taking it and leading me out of the room. We made our way to our private training grounds and everyone was there waiting for us already. As we approached, I watched as Avalynn had someone suspended in the air and tossed them to the side like they were a rag dog. She was so strong, even in her human form. As we closed in on the group, everyone stopped and bowed their heads to us. All except Avalynn and Everest, who instead greeted us with smiles. Sorry we are late. I apologized to everyone. It's okay. We understand. There is a lot going on. Avalynn smiled. Should we see how well you two work together? Everest suggested. Well, Avalynn can do a lot. I looked over at her and she semi-shrugged. That's true. Everest agreed. But you are still fairly new to this. You might surprise yourself. I nodded and took a deep breath. Okay. Let's do this. Ready? I looked over at Avalynn. Born ready. Let's go. She jumped excitedly, causing me to laugh at her enthusiasm. We walked out onto the field together. I looked around, walking in a circle, almost pacing. I felt my power rising as Seraphine stirred. She was feeling anxious but also excited. It was a weird feeling that was rolling over to me. I was also anxiously waiting to see how we would blend working alongside everyone. I was worried I would lose control, lose myself within my power. Don't doubt, or you will give in and lose control. If you give in to the darkness it will be hard to return. Seraphine warned me. I can't help it. I let out an internal sigh. It is hard but you must try. You must keep your mind clear and not darken with thoughts of revenge, no matter what. The outcome will be disastrous. She warned me once more. Okay. I will try my best. I agreed, mostly annoyed. All right, I think we should keep, at the very least, 50 yards between us. What do you think? Avalynn turned to look at me. I think that would be smart planning. We can adjust accordingly, if need be. I agreed. I could hear Brent as if he was standing there right next to me. I turned to look in his direction, amazed. I was still getting used to this whole being a Leekan. We will be here for moral support in the spots that we plan on being in. Everest chimed in, that is if this is where their main strength will be. I just nodded my head and began to zone out and refocus. I looked over as I watched Avalynn shift and moved to shift right with her. During all of the training and exercises we have been doing, my shifting is almost instant. I stood tall and felt my fire burn inside of me. I wondered what we would be focusing on as a target. That is when I saw someone run out onto the field ahead of us. There were 2 rock boulders being brought out. Written on them was Sibling 1 and Sibling 2. I smirked at them, ready to destroy the boulders into pebbles. They were spaced out about 200 yards or so. We waited for the clearing and began training. It wasn't long until I channeled all of my rage into the exercise. I lunged forward and in mid-air shifted to my human form as my fire snapped like a rope at the boulder. The boulder rocked back a few yards, crashing into a tree. I was shifted back into my Leekan form, charging at the boulder when I heard a loud, drawn-out distress whistle. It stopped me in my tracks and I knew what this meant. We all froze in our spot and turned our direction towards the castle. A loud boom rung out across the sky and soon we watched our southern watchtower crumble. We stood there in horror, watching for a moment as disaster struck. We all looked at one another and it was clear what was going on. In an instant we were all dashing back towards the castle. The walls were breached and we were a few minutes out. This was it. It was happening now. I knew that when we got back to the castle that destruction would be everywhere. It would be complete chaos. They must have moved. I just don't understand why the men we had guarding the area did not inform us. How did they get by our men and the witches? I let out a growl as we sprinted through the trees. As we approached, we noticed that buildings were burning and the screams of the people who were injured were deafening. Another boom and another tower crumbled to the ground as everyone below scattered. I felt Brent's pain, anger, worry, and the rest of his emotions that swirled inside of him. Luckily, no one was in this tower they had hit. We moved and began directing everyone to their designated area. People were scrambling, helping the injured and moving them to safety. I looked over at Avalynn and in sync we nodded our heads and went immediately to work. A few witches gathered with us, chanting and lifting their hands to the trees. They were attempting to lift the cloak the witches were using to keep them hidden. I looked over to where Brent and Everest were standing when I overheard another Leekan tell him we found them all dead. Murdered. I am sorry, my king. He let out a growl and I felt a pain in my heart. Everyone out there watching them was murdered. Lycans, wolves, and witches are gone. They would be the first casualties of today's battle. The war will be ending today. 105. Miranda POV. My body flew back after being hit with some type of electrical shock. My head hit the concrete wall. My ears rung and my vision blurred. Soon everything was dark, but it didn't last long. A warm feeling came over my body as I sat up. I was no longer in the kingdom but in a hilly field filled with wild flowers. The scent was like nothing I had ever smelled before. I inhaled deeply, this breath better than the next. I welcomed the warm fuzzy sensation it was giving me. Not long after, I began walking, making my way down the field to the little house at the bottom of the hillside. I stopped as I recognized the house. I turned around and looked at the hill and realized I was back at my childhood home. I smiled for a moment but soon frowned as I looked at the house and remembered the horrors that took place behind those doors. A shudder went down my spine as terrible memories flooded my mind. I walked up closer to the house and noticed a thin smoke cloud was coming out of the chimney. I frowned at seeing the smoke because no one should be there. But, someone was here, but who could it possibly be? Did someone stumble upon the house and make it new again? I approached the house with caution, determined to find out. All of my family was dead, aside from Avalynn, who was a cousin of our family, and Cassie, who was in the north where it was safe. When I was in front of the door, I didn't feel the need to knock as my hand reached for the doorknob. But before I could grasp it, it opened up wide and my mother was there. She walked right through me and yelled for my younger self to come home. I took a few steps back, stunned at the events that had just occurred. My eyes snapped at hearing my mother's sweet voice. How I missed her so! Miranda, my dear, it is time to come in. We can play tomorrow. She walked over to our bell, rang it 4 times and walked back inside. Soon I watched as a younger me approached and went inside. I walked in and watched as my entire family sat down together and ate their food. It was so nice to see my mama and papa. I have missed them so much since they passed away. I sighed and walked around the house, looking at everything, memories flooding my mind. Soon the brightness and warmth that I grew up with turned dark and cold. I looked around and felt a chill in the air. Everything was now covered in dust and broken. I felt sadness and anger rise up in my chest. My breathing picked up as I noticed stained blood on the beds and the chairs. Hello? I heard a woman's voice. I have been expecting you for some time now. Me? Why me? I asked her. You are an important key to helping unite the Northern and Southern territories. She smiled at me. It comes with a cost. A cost? I asked. She nodded her head. I cannot tell you the price you will pay, but it is worth it. In the end, it is all worth it. I will promise you this, it is worth it. Whoever this was liked to repeat herself, but I guess she wanted to make her point clear. Regardless of the price I would have to pay, if it brought us peace and happiness, I would be willing to sacrifice even myself if that was what it would take. I am prepared to pay whatever cost to let there be peace among us all. I told the mystery woman. That is good to hear, my child. She smiled, placed a kiss on my forehead and stepped back from me. You should probably get up, they need your help. Her arms waved and when her hands came together in a clap, pounding and throbbing was all that was left in my head. Miranda! Miranda! Get up! You have got to get up! I heard Avalynn by my side. Babe! Get up! We need someone to move her. Get her to the hospital. I heard Brent call out to someone. No, I am fine. I barely managed to get out. Give me a minute, the pain is lessening. I sat up with their help. As my eyes opened I saw that the wall in front of me was crumbled and now scattered around me. I am good. I promise. I am fine. I told them. Just help me stand, please. They did as I asked and I was standing. Brent? It's down. Their cloak is down. I can see them in the trees. They did it. Everest called out to us, causing us to all look at the tree line. Sure enough, there they were, all the witches who were once hidden were now revealed. Chanting or shooting magic out at us, trying to slowly pick us off. Our witches were fighting them back, keeping their hands full as our lichens and wolves tried their hand at picking them off one by one. I felt my anger rise inside of me as I moved forward. I was a key, the woman said. My magic will bring us together. I am sure Avalynn was the other key to helping unite us all. I looked over at her and she looked concerned. Me? Are you sure you are all right? She asked. Yes, I am sure. Let's go. I turned to Brent and gave him a quick embrace and a kiss. Go, now. Give your orders. We all follow your commands. We are all behind you, we support you. He kissed me hard on the mouth before letting me go again as he looked down at me. I love you, be safe. I love you, be safe. I returned the sentiment. My heart felt as if it was swelling and beating harder than usual in my chest. With this, we turned and all four of us parted ways to stand where we were needed. I had a few witches launch themselves at me. I turned as they flew at me and threw them into the crumbled tower, their bodies hitting with a thud. Nice work! Seraphine's voice echoed in my mind. Thanks, can you harness the magic too? I asked her. Of course, everything that you in your human form have learned, trickled to your beast form. I can do whatever you can. Shift so we are better protected. She told me and I did just that. I shifted to my lichen form in the blink of an eye. It was complete and total chaos. Bodies were flying every which way from the strength of our men. The witches were battling one another, but still the siblings have yet to make an appearance. I felt a pain in my side, well more of an irritation. The witch had moved a sharp stick into my hip. Seraphine yanked it out with her teeth as fire flew from her claws, setting the witch ablaze. The thought crossed her mind and gave me a small snicker. I got to thinking while everyone was fighting and worried that this could be a distraction. What if the siblings were using this to keep us preoccupied? I linked with Brent to let him know of my concerns. Hey! Has anyone laid their eyes on the two of them? I asked. Negative. There have been no sightings of either of them. Is that odd? Brent replied. Very odd. I am afraid it is a distraction. We may need to spread our forces more thinly and watch our back. I can take a team and move to the other side and scout. It was more of a question than anything. No, I don't want you alone and not by my side, Brent told me. I will be fine, besides, it won't be much longer until you are finished here. You can join me soon. I will take a team of lichens and witches with me. Seraphine looked over in his direction after ripping through another witch and he nodded. I sent a link to 10 lichen warriors and had them meet me at the gate. They stuck to my side like glue as we made our way through the castle. Once we made it through to the other side, my gut instinct was right. High above was a gigantic blue orb of some sort. The siblings were high in the air, chanting. Before I could even react, the bright blue orb was sent to the other side. It flung through the castle, breaking everything it came across, not even slowing down. Move, was all I managed to get through the link before the blood-curdling screams hit the air. My heart sank when I knew what had happened. A blue explosion hit the other side and I had feared that my family, friends, and people were gone. The siblings moved to the other side and we were hot on their trail as we followed them. We were halfway to the other side when pain ripped through my heart and I fell straight to my knees. I let out a scream that was so painful that I saw stars. I blinked a few times as pain ripped through my heart. I felt it. I felt his pain. It ripped through me like I was nothing. The very breath I had just breathed had left my body, leaving me desperately gasping for more. We must go, quickly. Seraphine told me. I had not realized that the pain I had felt caused me to shift into my human form. I stood and looked at the lichens around me. I inhaled deeply and forced the shift. The pain subsided and I realized when Seraphine whimpered she was taking most of my pain away. I was thankful for her more than ever at that moment. She was so strong, holding me together. We moved quickly to get to where we needed to be. Avalynn met me at the door and I was thankful to see her. She had blood smeared across her face but she was okay. She held her hands up to stop me and then Everest came into view. I tried to shift. Don't, Seraphine warned. Let me shift. I commanded her. No, don't, not until you remember what I told you. She spouted back. What? This is no time to reminisce. I yelled through our mind. Do not lose control. Do not lose control. She repeated to me and I realized at that moment that something had happened, something bad. I did not know who but it was obviously someone I was close to. A friend maybe? Oh God, no. It couldn't be. The pain I felt would make sense now. I looked over at Everest and back at Avalynn. He was holding something, someone. My heart shattered. I knew then who it was. No, I told Seraphine. Please do not tell me. Please do not say it. Your rage. She seemed worried. The rage. It will be used the way I intend it to be used. Fight beside me, fight with me, but do not fight against me. I yelled at her and felt her whimper back. I forced the shift as my rage took over and I ran to Everest. It was Brent. His body was bruised, and just broken. I could hear his heart, but faintly. Tears streamed down my face at the sight of him, but when I heard the laughter ringing in the air above our heads, all I saw was red. I didn't have to even ask what happened, I knew it was that blue orb. I knew there was something to it that was more dangerous than the destruction of the castle walls. When I moved forward, ready to attack, I felt Avalynn's hand grab my arm and pull me back for just a moment. Not alone. You will not fight this battle alone. I will fight with you. She told me and I nodded my head at her. I will make sure he gets to the hospital. I barely heard Everest tell me. I looked at him for a split moment and back up at the siblings. So, who is next in line to fall? She asked Avalynn and I. At the same time, we both said you. 106. Miranda POV. Avalynn and myself were band together to fight the siblings together. They were floating above us wearing evil smirks of accomplishment. Like they have done something, maybe they have. After all, Brent's life was hanging in a delicate state. I was angry and because of this anger, I suppressed Seraphine's thoughts, refusing to shift into my lichen form. I was once a witch, but now I am stronger. I knew it. I could feel the strength of my fire running rampant in my veins. Scared little pups is what they are. Sebastian was glaring down at us. Of course they are. Look at how weak they are. They think that their peasly little gifts will actually protect their kind. Ha! Cassandra laughed and Sebastian joined in. Their cackling actually made my stomach turn. They sounded pure evil. They were pure evil and I intended to end them soon. Of course, we could make a deal, you know. Sebastian looked down at us both, not giving us a chance to say anything. He continued, "Save the lives that are left here and become our servants and protectors. We will see that your high-ranking alphas and leaders are placed in their proper and rightful place. You could all make us the strongest army in the whole world. We can take over all magic beings, even the human world. We could rule it all." He smiled evilly. I glared as Avalynn spoke out before I could have a comeback to this prick. You think that we would give up so easily? Look at us down here. We have wolves, witches and lycans living together peacefully. How about you join us, then we can make sure you are in your proper place. She growled as she shifted to Charlotte, throwing the first magic at them. Her magic wrapped around Cassandra, trapping her in place, freezing her. She slammed her in the direction of the tree, but Sebastian countered her before Cassandra smashed into it. You asterisk! Cassandra spewed her hatred. A huge tree was plucked out of the ground like it was a flower and hurled at Avalynn. My fire came out quickly, burning the tree to ash instantly. The siblings turned and looked at me and I smirked. Avalynn, using their distraction as our opportunity, flew at them. Her jaw snapped around Sebastian's wrist, shaking it, ripping it off of his body. He screamed as Cassandra used the electric shock and stunned Avalynn, who had a force shift back to her human form. I flung my fire at them, in the form of a lasso. The fire wrapped round their bodies. Screaming was followed by a massive amount of water extinguishing my flame. We battled back and forth as war raged around us. I knew what needed to be done. I needed to lose control. I watched the electric pulses and a stunned Avalynn convulsed on the ground. I needed to protect her. This is how I would protect her. I would give in to my rage. Don't, Seraphine warned. Get out. I yelled at her. Do not do it. Is it worth it? The price that you will pay, that we will pay for what? Seraphine was pleading with me. It is worth it. It will be worth it. In the end, everything rests on this decision. The mystery woman told me. I would have to choose. I have chosen my fate, your fate, Brent's fate. Everyone's fate for the greater good. It is worth it, Seraphine. Peace is worth it. I felt her sigh and nod. Yes, peace is worth it. Shift. It will be a more powerful force. With that, I shifted to Seraphine. She came out growling, rage burned hot inside of our body. I felt the force of the anger boil our blood. When the siblings turned their focus on us, Seraphine taunted them. She was spurting out small bits of magic at them. That's when magic I did not cause came across the air, over my head and struck the two with strong force. It was strong enough to knock them back and send them flying a couple 100 yards. I smirked and I knew who it was. I watched the siblings' movements, which were now slower, get back into a defensive position. I heard Melissa, who had come up behind us, shouting Sebastian. Cassandra! Your time is over. Melissa! Cassandra said with anger, however did you get out of that hole? An evil smirk crossed her face. With Avalynn's help. This is why it is over. With our powers combined, you're both finished. Melissa yelled. At that time, I heard a deathly growl from my left. Avalynn had recovered and had shifted back to Charlotte. I watched as she slowly began to rise in the air. I could see her magic swirling around her body. She was angry and she had every right to be. I looked back at Melissa, who was chanting a spell at them. I decided now was the time to give in. If we were going in full force, this would be it. I am with you every step of the way. Seraphim's thoughts drifted towards me. I was happy to have her support because without it, I feared that I would be weaker, that my magic wouldn't be at full power. Thank you. I told Seraphim. Let's go to work then. Seraphim told me. As she said it, I felt the rage that had pent up coming to the surface. At that moment, I wondered what my sacrifice would be. I brushed that thought out of my mind, as it didn't matter anymore. I had come too far. My eyes closed as I focused on my revenge. I could feel that my feet were no longer touching the earth, my anger had lifted me into the air. I was giving into the magic, letting it do what needed to be done. My arms opened by themselves and with that, unknown to me, had pushed all innocent parties far away. I felt the heat and welcomed the warmth it brought. The siblings were laughing and chatting to one another. What is she doing? Sebastian asked his sister. Trying to take us on alone? This should be fun. Cassandra laughed. The siblings shot magic towards me, but the protective bubble that was around my body made it rebound and shoot off into the trees. Impossible! Sebastian yelled as he shot another spell at me. This one was stronger and cracked my bubble, and that was when my magic erupted from my body. My head tilted back with a scream as my magic overwhelmed my body, erupting from me. It was like a bomb was going off inside me. Fire spread like a rapid wildfire, eating everything in its path. Trees, buildings, and the bridges that were all close to me burned. Then, huge balls of fire shot rapidly out of the destruction to the siblings. They tried their best to dodge them, but they were unsuccessful when a few large balls smashed into them, knocking them out of the air. Their bodies bounced like a ball when they smashed into the ground. My body lowered and it was time to end this mess. As they both struggled to get up, my body completely erupted once again. Fire exploded from every orifice of my body. It was the hottest I had ever felt, and I even felt like I was burning myself. A scream from Cassandra was all that was heard before the crackling of the fire had consumed everything. When it was done, my magic rushed back inside of me. I felt lightheaded as I looked at my surroundings. Everything was burning. I destroyed everything in my path. I didn't see any dead bodies, other than the charcoal ones of Cassandra and Sebastian. I heard my name being called, and as I spun around to look in that direction, darkness crept into my vision and I collapsed. Darkness was all I could see in my mind. I couldn't even feel Seraphim anymore. Was she gone? Was she hurt by what had happened? I felt like crying but couldn't produce any tears. Was I dead? I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, everything around me was bright white. I looked down and I was dressed in a simple white cotton tea-length dress. As my hands went down to smooth it out, I noticed just how soft it was. "Hello, again." A familiar voice came from behind me. When I turned around, I saw the mystery woman. She didn't look as stressed as she did before. She was honestly beautiful. She made me feel at ease. Just being in her presence, I felt better. I took a deep breath and nodded my head slightly. "Hello. What am I doing back here?" She smiled sweetly at me. "Oh, my dear child. You are here because you completed what needs to be done. You did what you were intended to do." I frowned a little. Where is Seraphine? Was she the price that I would have to pay? Will I no longer be a Leekan? She shook her head. "Seraphine is fine, she is just recovering. She may be away for a long while. Which is why you are here. As long as she is down and out, you too will be out." I watched as she moved and walked away from me. She didn't have to say anything, but I followed her. "Am I in a coma then?" "Yes, you are. Your fire burned you badly. Your insides even began to bubble." I watched as her hands were held behind her back. "My insides? You mean the fire was so strong it almost killed me by burning myself alive from the inside?" I was standing next to her now, my head turned to look at her, and she nodded her head. "Yes, that is exactly what happened. Your fire power is gone though. It has served its purpose." She paused and I thought she might say more. After a moment of silence, I asked her what else is gone. She turned to look at me with a sad smile. "My dear, do you mean your sacrifice?" I nodded my head. "Yes." She inhaled a deep breath and turned to me. "You will never be able to have children, given what has happened to you. Your Leekan, Seraphine, shielded more important organs as you began to burn. She took most of the heat on her own, to protect you." I frowned and looked down at the floor. Even though I was still unable to cry, I could still feel the emotions of my lost future as it circled down the drain and disappeared into the darkness. I gathered myself and knew that this could have been something I was giving up. I looked back up at her. "How is Brent?" She looked at me with sadness. "He is hurt, badly. I believe he will make it though. They're putting you both in the same room in hopes that you will both heal together, faster." She turned and looked at me. "Do not be sad, my dear. Please realize that you have brought together everyone in the northern and southern kingdoms. For the first time, in a long time, wolves, witches, and Leekan will be living together in harmony. Sure, there will be issues along the way, but they will work out in the end, eventually. You and Avalynn successfully completed the mission at hand. When your blast of protection sent her flying to the other side where Cassandra and Sebastian's minions were, she went psychotic. She slaughtered every single one of them. It was brilliant, really. It was like watching a deadly poetic dance. You both did what was intended for you to do. You saved us." She wrapped her arms around me in a hug. Her hug felt warm, welcoming, and soothing. I leaned into her and wrapped my arms around her and, for the first time in forever, I felt a mother's love. It then dawned on me who she was. She was our moon goddess, Selene. It made sense with her pale ivory skin and long white hair. I stood back to look at her and she smiled at me. Better? She asked me. Yes, Selene, I am. I told her and watched her smile warmly at me. So you know who I am? She asked. I didn't know before, but all of the legends in books I have read in the last few months, I put the pieces together. I told her. She nodded her head. I must leave you now. You must get your rest so you may wake up. Peace be with you. She kissed my forehead and then she was gone. When I blinked, darkness consumed me. But, with her gone now, I realized I could faintly hear the voices of people around me. Seraphine. I called out in my mind in search of her. I had hoped that maybe some time had passed and she would be able to communicate with me. It was no use, she was still gone and I was left here alone with my thoughts. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.